Hi, I'm Teresa Graham Brett, and I want to thank you for joining us in the conference today. The topic that I wanted to talk about was taking risks and finding the right path for you, the path that really fulfills you in your life to live the life that you really want to be living. You know, in my own journey, I was often on many paths that I decided that I needed to get off of. And the first time I made that decision was really difficult. And so I want to talk about the process of, often we make decisions in our lives and we get on a particular path and we've invested maybe a lot of time and effort to being there. Maybe we've moved across the country for a job like I had and then needed to quit that job within the first 6 months. Maybe, another example in my own life was I was in law school and I knew that ultimately I didn't want to be practicing law and that it wasn't going to serve my higher purpose and it wasn't going to be what I wanted to do in my life. And so, often when we've invested time, when we have been in that place where that's the thing that we're doing, it can be really hard to decide, not that we made a mistake, but that maybe continuing on this path is not the right decision for us. And there's so much often that, momentum that you get when you're on that path, that stopping and getting off of it can often feel like failure. And it can be very scary to make the decision to get off the path that you're on, to take the risk to live the life that you really want to be living. And so in taking that risk, one of the things that I found, because I have made shifts in my life, at least half a dozen times. I went to law school. I was determined to go to law school. I thought it was what I always wanted to do. I went to law school. It really ended up not being what I was going to spend my life doing. So I got my degree anyway, but then I went and I worked with students in universities in a career in higher education. I got a job at a really great university and I moved across the country. And 6 months later, I quit that job. Kind of unheard of in my career path that people would do that. And it ended up that it was probably one of the best decisions I had ever made in my life, was to get out of that job and take the risk, and something else came along that was exactly the right thing for me. And even later on in my career, in higher ed, I had finally reached the position that I'd wanted. I was at the university I wanted to be at. I was offered my dream job that I'd always wanted. By the time I was 40, I was 39 at the time, and I turned it down and decided that it just wasn't right for me. And each of those times, the process that I use that I want to share with you is that I had to take stock and I had to assess and go within myself to say, was I really happy? Was what I was doing on a daily basis and the ways I spent my time really fulfilling my soul? Was it feeding my soul? Was it doing what I really wanted to do? And even though I've invested, whether it was 3 years in law school, moving across the country and investing that money, whether it was 16 years in a career and turning down a dream job, at each of those points in my life, I really had to be willing to take the risk to listen to my heart, to get the support I needed around me, but ultimately to be willing to stand up and make that decision and face whatever was going to come from it. And what I have to say is each time I've made that decision, each time I've been willing to be very, very honest with myself, asking myself hard questions, asking myself, is this what I'm doing right now, is this consistent with what's important to me, with what I say is important to me? And when it wasn't, when I could honestly answer that question, no, I am not living my life on a daily basis according to my values, according to what I say is important to me, then it became really clear that I had to make significant changes in my life. And I had to get support for those changes, whether it was with my partner, whether it was putting in place a plan for how I was going to exit where I was at the time, whether it was reading and getting online in chat rooms or forums to get the support I needed for people who were living that life that I wanted to be living. All of those things where it helped me consistently make the right decisions for me and for my family and for my life. And so what I would encourage you to do is to be willing to take stock, be willing to look within yourself and ask yourself the really hard questions, maybe the questions you've been avoiding right now. And if those questions, if you're not doing what's right for you, what fulfills you, what feeds your soul, then it's probably time to look at getting off that path, to get the support you need, to find other people who are living that life that you want, to see how they did it, and to forge a new path. Jump off, take the risk. It feels like you're jumping off the cliff and you're not sure what's there. But every single time I've done that, I have always landed exactly where I needed to be and always in a better place, even if the jumping off was really scary.